drums. I do all of my music in this regular ass bedroom with no sound treatment whatsoever. So the chances of me actually having a drum kit in this room are literally zero. So if I want to have drums in my recordings, I need to find another way of doing them. So this week I've been learning drum programming. If I'm allowed to have links in the description when you're watching this video, then I'll have links to Misha Mansour's videos where he talks about drum programming down there. Honestly, they're the only things I've ever seen that have actually put it in my head how to drum program well. But I'm not a teacher, so rather than telling you how it all works, I thought I'd show you what it is that I've done. Now, my expectation of where this video was going to lead was I thought I'd be going through all of the notes essentially by hand, changing all of the velocities myself to try and make it sound more human. But in talking to my friend literally this morning, I discovered that there is a randomize function essentially that you can use, and you can use that to change the velocities with a hint of randomness. And hopefully that will make it sound a bit more like someone's actually played the drums rather than they've been just clicked in. So as you can see here, all of these notes here have the exact same velocity. So that's gonna sound really robotic if you tried listening to it. I experimented with the randomize function this morning and that brought me this. So here's what the verse riff sounds like when it was just clicked in. And then let's compare that to a bit of randomness. Now that's only got a randomness of like 2 up or down, so there's a very small window of velocities there, but it is enough to make each hit sound a little bit different to the last, and that is going to make it feel a lot more human than just every note hitting the exact same. So here we have the velocity change menu. It's part of the MIDI settings on Pro Tools. On other DAWs, this is called Humanize, but on Pro Tools, it's just Randomize. So I can change how much randomized the velocity is going to be based on what I put in here. And I feel like 102, which is where I had clicked them in at, is kind of what we want to randomize around. So we're just going to hit apply and see, now that we've got a bigger range of random, how different this sounds now as well. Yes, it feels a lot less like a machine, but to me, again, it doesn't feel right, because chances are on these 3 kicks, your first one would be the biggest, because it would be like but, so you'd be like the accent would be on the first hit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up each of the first ones in each bar. They're going to be about the same. So now, doesn't matter whether the second ones are downwards or upwards, it's just the first one is always the biggest. And to me, that sounds like how I imagine it would be played if I had a drummer sat there and they were going at it doing this part for me. Which I know from experience, trying to emulate Zach Farrow's drumming is a difficult task. While we were at uni, we did an emulation project, and I decided to do Brick by Boring Brick from Brand New Eyes, the album after this one. And my friend Joseph, who told me about this randomize feature, he drummed it for me. It was agony. It was just such a pain in the ass to get it to sound right and you just had to play so aggressively, so angrily to try and emulate the Zach Farrow sound. If you know That's What You Get, you know that the first verse is kind of split in two. So here's the intro, and then here's the first part, and here's the second part, and then in the middle it goes back to kind of the intro riff. It only does that in the first verse. So you can see here in the second verse, it's just straight through. So I think what I'm going to record today, so that I actually have a reasonable length video rather than me sitting here waffling for God knows how long, I'm just going to record me kind of getting the intro and the first verse how I want them. And then if you want more information about drum programming, you can let me know in the comments, and I will make another video in the coming weeks going more in depth about things. But as for right now, all we're worried about is getting what I've programmed to sound human. So that's what we're going to do. So with this part of the first verse, that was already randomized, and we kind of just made it sound a bit human. But now we're going to look at the intro, and we're going to look at how to make this sound human essentially from scratch. So here's what it sounds like currently, with everything, basically every hit being the same velocity. So as you can see, all of these cymbal hits are pretty much the same. And then again, all these cymbal hits highlighted down here in white again are pretty much the same. We'll come now to the kick. Okay, I did actually kind of program these in as a bit different, but it's the same. So the first hit of the kick is always going to be 114, 114, 114, 114. And then after every hit is 107. So again, we've kind of got every single kick drum hit is going to land about the same. I'm not too sure how I programmed this intro then, because it's like that's 114, 107, 107, 114, 107, 107. And then here on the snare, it's 116, 108, 108, and then that's a different snare sample, and that's at 103. And again, if you look here, it's exactly the same. So I've just gone and copied that from bar to bar. So yes, there is the dynamics, but it's not going to sound human because it's the same thing over and over. So I think for the kicks, again, I'm going to use the randomize function, and the kick is going to be a bit bigger in this intro. We'll take down the randomizer a little bit because we're going to be upping the first ones anyway. The kicks are going to be a bit bigger in this intro. Everything's going to be a bit bigger in the intro, then kind of come down for the verse. We'll have a look at making the kicks a bit bigger here, and then on each bar, again, I can grab the first kick and I can just bring that up a bit. That's the kick there, so we can now bring that up. And then if we just listen to these first two bars compared to the rest, again, with the leading kick being bigger than the other kicks, it sounds more intentional. And when it's smaller, it kind of sounds a bit sloppy, and it doesn't sound like that's how a real drummer would play it. So it's just one of those things where you can make things sound more intentional and more human, and it gives it more feel. So by just grabbing the first snare of each bar, we can give these their own sort of feel. And I was hoping, no, not 10. I was hoping to make the first snares a bit bigger than the rest of them. And now we'll go through and essentially each single hair snip, each single snare hit after that first one, because it's a 4, we're going to try and go for like a soft, weak, medium, weak kind of feel. So if you imagine it's like bagger, bagger, the right hand is going to be hitting harder than the left hand just to give it that feel. So that's how we're going to be imagining it as a drummer played it. Because if you do everything as if it was played intentionally, you can think through how a drummer would really play this piece. If you imagine that you have a drummer that has played the piece, you can almost put into the MIDI how it would have felt for the drummer to play it. So one thing I've actually spent a lot of this week doing is watching drum covers, specifically Paramore ones, because if I'm trying to emulate Zach Farrow, I might as well watch people trying to emulate Zach Farrow. So trying to copy a real drummer gives you the right sense of intention, and it makes the song more intentional. And by having it be that little bit more intentional, makes sense as to where things are going. So obviously we now haven't even touched the cymbals yet, but if you remember how things felt and sounded before we went and did the kicks and the snares, it's going to feel like this is how a person sat in a room and played the drums. All of these cymbal hits are, well, let's just grab them, about 115. So with these, because the way I imagine it is it's like on the kick beat, it's going to be like a psh, psh, psh. So the drummer is going to be hitting these quite hard. So we're going to have the velocity quite high, but we are going to have a fair chunk of randomness in this. And let's just see how that sounds now that the cymbals are done as well. That, again, to me, that feels quite human. A couple of them are lacking that intention. So all we need to do there is grab that first hit. It's like here, a bit more intention. Just like any other music making, the most important thing is your ears. I am gonna go through and I will make the rest of this verse sound a bit more human, and if I've got something relevant to say, I'll say it. If not, I will see you once this verse is done and we can have a little comparison of how it did sound compared to how it sounds now. So, yeah. Now, thanks to the magic of video editing, let's have a listen to how this sounds before and after some humanization. Now, as I said earlier, this isn't the finished drum sound. This is just making what I've programmed sound human. We'll talk about it a bit more in the next couple of weeks because it's going to be a whole hoo-ha trying to make this cover sound how I want it to sound. So we're going to go in depth on how I'm going to do it. If you're looking forward to that, stick around, hit subscribe so you can see when my new videos come out. If you want to learn more about drum programming, like I said, I'll put links to the Misha Mansour videos in the description if I'm able to. If you want to learn more from me, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to get around to it in another video if you make it seem like you want to see it. So yeah, I will see you all next week. Hopefully this less scripted, a bit more off the cuff video is something you enjoyed. This is more the direction I want this content to be done in, just because I don't feel like sitting and scripting a video is really a true reflection of like a diary type video. But who knows, we'll see what happens in the future. And yeah, I will see you all next week. So goodbye.